What if the most private act between two people wasn't about passion or choice, but a calculated move in a grand war machine? In ancient Sparta, that's exactly how it went down. Forget the heroic tales of shields and spears. The real foundation of their power was a chilling control over life itself, starting right from conception. This wasn't romance. It was engineering humans for endless battle. And as we'll uncover, it built an unstoppable force that eventually crumbled under its own weight. Picture this. A young man, sculpted by years of grueling drills, stands before elders who've seen more blood than most could imagine. They're not judging his skills. They're sizing him up like prime stock. Height, build, family history, all factored in. Across the way, a woman with powerful limbs and unyielding gaze gets the same scrutiny. No sparks fly, no whispers of affection. The state pairs them because their union promises tougher kids, ready to fight. Personal feelings? Irrelevant. This was Sparta's cold blueprint for dominance, where bodies served the collective, not the heart. But hold on, because this setup hid even bolder twists that kept the bloodline sharp. Women in this world weren't hidden away like in other Greek cities. They moved freely, bodies honed by runs through rugged hills and javelin tosses under the sun. From childhood, girls built strength, not for glory in combat, but for the ultimate test, delivering warriors. Their education mixed sweat with smarts, teaching them to read, argue, and manage lands, while men marched off. Valued for their grit, they owned property and spoke their minds, earning respect that shocked outsiders. Yet it all circled back to one goal: producing heirs who could hold a line against any foe. Their power came with a price, though, one that blurred lines in ways that still spark debates today. Imagine a celebrated fighter returning home to a wife who struggles to conceive. In most places, that might end in quiet despair. Not here. The rules allowed, demanded even, that he seek out another, perhaps tied to a lesser man, but blessed with vitality. It wasn't betrayal, it was strategy. Husbands often nodded approval, seeing it as a boost to the community's might. Fidelity bent to the greater good. Emotions shoved aside for superior genes. This wasn't wild indulgence, but a calculated edge, ensuring every child carried the fire of the strongest. Whispers from recent digs suggest this kept their numbers elite, but at what hidden cost to the soul? Then came the moment of truth, birth. No tender cradling awaited the newborn. Instead, it faced a council of battle-scarred veterans, poking and prodding without a hint of pity. A strong cry and sturdy limbs meant a pass, a ticket to the harsh path ahead. But if flaws showed, maybe a twisted limb or faint vigor, the verdict turned grim. Left on barren slopes, exposed to the wild, it was nature's call, they claimed. Weeding out threats to the whole. Modern experts argue over how often this happened, with no tiny bones turning up in those infamous pits to prove the tales. Some call it exaggerated legend from rivals, but the intent rings clear. Only the fittest fueled the machine. And that was just the start of a lifetime forged in fire. At 7, the real shaping kicked in. Boys ripped from their mothers' sides, thrust into barracks where comfort was a curse. No soft beds, just reeds yanked by hand from riverbanks. No tools allowed. A single scrap of cloth against biting winds and scorching heat. Food, barely enough to survive, pushing them to sneak and steal from farms or stores. Getting away with it, sharpened cunning, vital for scouts in enemy lands. But a slip-up brought lashes, not for the theft, but the clumsiness. This wasn't random hardship. It crafted survivors who thrived on the edge, eyes always scanning for the next move. Bonds formed in the grit, but rivalry simmered, ready to erupt. Deeper still, the trials targeted the mind. Words became weapons, drilled to be sparse and sharp. Our term laconic echoes their homeland for a reason. Idle chatter earned bites or blows from trainers, forcing quick wits under pressure. Older youth lorded over the young, hurling traps in questions at meals. Who's the mightiest? Is cunning fair? Stumble, and mockery or fists followed. This wasn't mere bullying. It was a forge for unbreakable spirits, teaching to mask weakness and spot it in others. Public shame built walls against fear, turning boys into men who could face torture without cracking. Yet beneath the steel, questions linger about what humanity got stripped away. As they neared the end, shadows called. Selected elites vanished into the night, armed only with a blade and scraps. Their quarry, the enslaved masses, those bold enough to stand out. Slipping through fields, they struck without warning, culling any spark of rebellion. This wasn't war, it was calculated fear, backed by yearly rituals declaring the underclass foes. No guilt attached, it proved loyalty stripped bare. Recent talks on social feeds buzz about this as an ancient purge, a tool to keep the outnumbered rulers safe. It sealed their transformation, but planted seeds of a system too rigid to bend. As they neared the end, shadows called. Selected elites vanished into the night, armed only with a blade and scraps. Their quarry, the enslaved masses, those bold enough to stand out. Slipping through fields, they struck without warning, culling any spark of rebellion. This wasn't war, it was calculated fear, backed by yearly rituals declaring the underclass foes. No guilt attached, it proved loyalty stripped bare. Recent talks on social feeds buzz about this as an ancient purge, a tool to keep the outnumbered rulers safe. It sealed their transformation, but planted seeds of a system too rigid to bend. In time, the very strengths that lifted them high dragged them low. Chasing flawless lines thinned their ranks, each lost fighter a gap hard to fill. Other lands swelled with numbers, they couldn't. Innovation stalled in their unyielding ways, leaving them blind to fresh tactics. Victory over rivals brought riches that poisoned the core, breeding greed where equality once ruled. A crushing defeat in 371 BCE shattered the myth, their king fallen amid the chaos. By Roman days, they were relics, staging old rites for tourists. Echoes of new finds in 2025 like expanded museums showcasing their bronzes, remind us of the allure, but also the warnings. Looking back, Sparta's path, from bedroom to battlefield, crafted legends, but at a staggering toll. They chased an ideal of unyielding might, sacrificing warmth for wins. Today, as we grapple with our own quests for perfection, be it in genes or societies, their story whispers a stark truth. Push too far, and the machine devours itself. What might we build if we balanced strength with heart?